Here I am. It's April 4th. Baseball's in full swing, MLB at least, and college, but who watches college baseball? Um, I go to a game or two because there's a stadium nearby, and my attention span for baseball, I'll admit, is not great. I was entranced by the World Series last year. That was a rare exception. I was entranced by game 47 of the World Baseball Classic. Um, okay, I'm a baseball fan. I've touched a lot of bases in baseball. Anyhow, this is about last night's game with the Huskies. Okay, I'm a native Connecticut person. I may have left for North Carolina approximately 4 years ago, and but part of me will remain in the Nutmeg State. As far as being a Husky Mania basketball fan, this is kind of a new thing for me. I would watch the game on the periphery. I was surrounded. My brother went to UConn. My parents were loyal UConn basketball fans. My mother-in-law, she was and her sister Aunt Helma. They're great UConn fans. And last night was a bitter pill to swallow for sure. But the game itself, wow, you can write books, and I think that books will be written about that game. I mean, people will forget that South Carolina's got one giant hill to climb still, and I think they will climb that hill. I watched very little basketball this year, which is a typical year for me. I'm not much. I will crank it up in March Madness. And Carrie likes the Huskies. She's been a fan even when she used to work in Hartford, and they had tickets and they will go to gamble. So she's a real fan. She knows the players. We pop in, we peek in on games. Less so since we're here because back home they would be on all the time. But last night was we had a 54 game winning streak on the line, and during that time they only had one game that was a double figure game. That was not a double figure game. They mauled people this year by 30. No, during the course of this domination, this period of just burying people, they won by an average of 37 points. It was bizarrely, crazily high. But UConn last night, they laid an egg. Their star players, they have this freshman, Canonis. She was laying bricks all over the court. She had some outstanding athletic ability and plays, but last night was ugly. Sarah Strong, the player of the year, I believe, a sophomore, they claim one of the best sophomore years in the history of women's college hoops. She had a really bad day. And Ozzie Fudd, who was, I believe, the player of the year. I didn't get this. One player was the player of the year, and then they said the other one was. But either way, these two superstars for UConn, in addition to Canonis, they came up short. It was a game up until the fourth quarter. In the third quarter, UConn shut them down. But the fourth quarter came along, and there was a burst where UConn banged it. They were down by double digits. They banged them 3 threes in a row. And you see the life getting back into Gino. He looked alive. But there were quite a few moments, fuck me moment when they stole the ball. He actually had an interview during the course of the game bitching about Dawn Staley, about the inequality on the foul situation. He had a girl that had her shirt ripped. First time, found this out after the game. In 40 years, he's ever had a player who had to remove their shirt because it was torn. It upset the shit out of him. And when he asked the ref what happened, they said they didn't see it. That's not ridiculous. Refs do not see things all the time. It's impossible to see things. Sometimes it's a lot easier than it looks. So, that was brutal. He was calling out the officials during the game. That is not cool. What that is just laying a seed And I don't know what his motive was to do that, but it was poor freaking form. I said it to Carrie right then and there. That is lame. That is shitty. And she didn't say a word. She really wanted this game. She screeched and yelled, and the Huskies, they were bricklaying, and South Carolina was just getting so many offensive rebounds. It was startling. It was like you were playing with a bunch of giants, and they weren't really that much bigger, but they were aggressive. And it bugged my wife that they were so physical. Yeah, they were knocking people to the ground. Well, I'm sorry, but I saw a Husky player knock Fudd, for instance, she mugged a player, and even the announcer made a comment. I taped it, and I'm going to write down that comment because it was extremely funny. The guy that was doing the play-by-play, he used to be on Fan. I know the guy. He's really good. He's on the A team now. Did a great job, and the coverage of the game was good. And but I told Carrie right then and there after Gino blew up, I said that's gonna leave a scar. That's not gonna go good. It's not gonna go good. That was not kosher. He can get away with stuff like that. He's been around for 40 years. He's the greatest coaches in women's basketball history, arguably, definitely would be in a top couple. He is a great coach, but has he lost his touch? I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, but last night and after the game, and you could see it go downhill in that fourth quarter, and UConn was not winning that game. Once it got to be 8 points, all of a sudden the game only had 2 minutes left, and they were down by 8, and I realized that it's over. And thankfully, they weren't just intentionally fouling people, knocking people to the ground, and that kind of shit. They didn't resort to that. They tried to walk off the court with their head held high, with the one small exception when there's a gal on UConn missed an unmolested layup, and she literally cried on the court. No, you can't do it. Only lasted a few seconds, but never going to live that down. There was one gal, anyhow, UConn, they didn't play their A game. A lot of disgruntled UConn fans will say, we gave them the game. They did not win the game. I don't want to hear that shit. That's not true. They deserve to win that game. Did the fouls, was there some sort of vendetta against UConn on the fouls? No, there was not. It was a hard-fought game, and there was a lot of bricklaying. You could have built monuments with the amount of bricks being thrown. In the game afterward, I saw some gal on the losing team. She went 0 for 14 or 1 for 14 from the field, and these UConn shooting numbers were atrocious. They were getting one shot to the basket. They probably had a couple of offensive rebounds. Meanwhile, the other team has 8 in the first half. Not acceptable. I would have loved to have been behind the scene and hear what he had to say. But today was a little damage control. Well, I'm not telling you the worst part. Now, the game's over. The game's not over. There's less than a second left. And Gino is walking through the line, and he shakes her hand. There was a timeout. He shakes her hand, and he stopped her, and he said some shit. Then she said some stuff back, and they had to be separated. Come on, that's a terrible look. Come on, you're 70-something years old. And he just blurted stuff out that's I've done it myself. And it's when you get older, sometimes the filter is not great. But you have to keep yourself from saying stupid stuff. And in my opinion, he had 2 different incidents where he could have been a lot cooler. Did I lose some respect for him? Maybe a little, only because I have a lot. The guy is great. I don't have a whole lot of bad things to say about him. Players love him. And he's, I guess, a coach's coach, but he's a hard guy, and he's an older guy. Is he a red guy? I don't know. I know that Dawn Staley, she's a street baller, and she looks like she came from the street. No insult intended, but she acts like a nut. And he made a point of telling the announcer during the game that that coach was out of control, saying unrepeatable stuff. Ah, come on, that's petty. It's bullshit. So after the game, the truth comes. So anyhow, naturally, he says that she didn't shake his hand. Well, they went to the film. She most definitely shook his hand. Was it some heartfelt moment? No. But I guess historically, there is a lot of etiquette involved. And he stood waiting 3 minutes for her to approach him. This is after the game, this shit comes out. He had to wait 3 whole minutes before she finally shook his hand. And it pissed him off. And he couldn't let go of it. And she was like, come on. I'm above that. Glory to God. Is she a spiritual person? I couldn't say, but it was a smart idea to shift the focus at that moment. It was it the greatest basketball game? No. Was it very physical? Yes. Was there a lot of incendiary? There were some incendiary moments. Yes. Was it poorly officiated? I don't think so. I really don't. I just think that UConn ran out of freaking gas. Come on. They allowed like 6 points in the third quarter. In the fourth quarter, they couldn't stop anybody. They were running the length of the court. Maybe they were tired. I wouldn't be surprised. He plays like 7 players. But this is not to knock Gino. He's great. And UConn, obviously. This girl Canonis, she might be the best ever. I mean, they just keep coming. They got her from Ecuador. I mean, there is no place on the globe where especially America, but the globe where people will not want to go to UConn. Yeah. So what? It's in the middle of rural Connecticut, but other than that, it's great. Well, let's talk about tonight's game. Now, Dan Hurley, I wrote an article about him when they won the championship, and it was positive. And then I started following him, and he's got an ego bigger than the moon. You think that Oriana has an ego? And it's true. Bill Belichick, Oriana, same mold. Crusty, but legendary. I don't know. It's a tough call. So anyhow, Hurley, I raked him. I had a small video about him, about how he was reading his press clippings, and this guy was, he seemed like he was the greatest thing ever. Now his ego was running away with him. There was rumors he turned down coaching for the Lakers, and he is a very animated nutcase. I can't think of Bobby Knight, only a lot younger. I mean, he is that mental, but a good coach. I mean, he's got a revolving door of players, and here they are in 3 Final Fours in the last 4 years. That is stupendous. And these players that leave, yeah, some of them go into the NBA, but they're not good. Let's face it. So that alone, he's either cracked the code or he is a very good coach, or both. Anyhow, obviously, I want the Huskies to win. Talking about me for a second, I never went to a game of Stores, saw some NIT basketball with UConn, Tony Hansen era. He was good. Or was that NCAA, whatever. So I watched the games. I was surrounded by UConn nuts, especially in the last 50 years of my life, and 40 of which I worked at Sikorsky, and then the UConn fans were growing as the legend grew. And there were a lot of men. The men were as crazy about watching the women's basketball, if not more crazy, than the men's game. I mean, it's a sweeter game. It is more of what basketball used to be old school, pass the ball, smart play, team defense, and but it's morphed. I mean, there's a lot of 3-pointers, and it's kind of got NBA-ish without the dunks and some of the over-the-top athleticism. But these women are great athletes. There's not one woman that goes on a court in the Final Four that is not very special. Will they play at the next level? I don't know. I don't care. This girl, Canonis, she played in Italy. She was discovered when she was 12 years old. She was signed and played in Italy, and her parents made it their business of just being her caddy or whatever, and that was that. Now she's at UConn, and she's not I guess she's a professional. NIL, name, image, likeness. She will cash in to the millions if she doesn't get hurt. Rough game last night for her. Fudd, horrible game. It was too late before she woke up. Strong, she played strong, but it was off. She threw some shots that were ill-advised, way off. I think she was tired. I mean, could she be in a little better shape? Maybe. All right, going back to tonight's game. Yesterday, I didn't really give a damn about that tonight's game because I wanted UConn women to win. I was a fan, for sure. I watched that game intently. My wife was eking and awking and making these weird noises. Like, it's like I had to look out of the corner of my eye. Is that coming from her? It's like she had some sound effects going because the Huskies couldn't get it done. They had a sequence where they were throwing a lot of bricks, granted, but they had a sequence where they had 3 balls go around the rim and out. And it was like a 4-point game at the time. And by the time that sequence was done, it was 8 or 10 points. And the better team last night won. Will I even watch 1 minute of Sunday afternoon's women game? No. If the Huskies were there, of course. It's Easter, happy Easter. Me, I'm not, what can I say? A-religious. But we are going to go get on the makings of a decent meal for tomorrow. What else? Going back to Hurley. I don't know what tonight. I don't know what's going to happen tonight. That last UConn game against Duke, that was legendary. That was one of the greatest games I've seen. And I haven't. What is the word? My body of work for college hoop is nowhere near great. But when I watch a game, I know what's going on. I dig. And I figure it out real quick. I might not know the names, but I figure it out, and it is a really good product. NCAA basketball is top notch, especially in the tournament. I mean, you just go to a random NCAA game, it's okay. It's like a graduated high school affair, but at the top level, it's really damn good. So for go back to, I used to talk about people drinking the Kool-Aid in Connecticut about the Huskies and God damn it, these people, they're watching the game. My mother and my mother-in-law included, and they will watch the game to the bitter end of an 86-24 game. I think it's fun. Meanwhile, I want to turn the channel off when it's 20-4. Patience, not so much. Anyhow, that's all I got. Huskies, whatever happens tonight happens. Getting back to what I was saying, I was hoping that the ladies Huskies won, and then tonight, I would just be a marginal fan for the game. Now I got to be a real fan. And this guy Caravan, excuse me, supposedly they're this player. He needs to wake up. He got shut down so bad in that last game against Duke. I don't know if it's because Duke had good defenders or what, but he was useless. He had a big shot and made a big pass late in the game. Other than that, he was a no-show. So to Alex Caravan, I believe that's his name, you need to wake up. And then you can tell me to go to hell after the game, after you win and you move ahead. And I hope now I got to shift the eggs in the baskets to the men's Huskies. not only do they got to win tonight, they got to follow through on Monday. Does you no good to get to the finals to lose. That is a crust you do not want to freaking bear. You're better off losing now. That's all I got. Out.